Hi, it's Lisa. I have a 4-photo Christmas layout today. The arrangement that I'm going to use is to take my photos and put them on tags. You can do that, or you could make the photos larger and just skip the whole tag part. But I thought these would be cute to put them on tags. It kind of goes with, you know, Christmas presents, Christmas kind of theme. And of course, tags are great for anything. I'm going to do some embellishments down here in the lower right-hand corner, balancing that a little bit at the top and the title in the middle. The journaling is actually going to be on the back of each of the tags, so I've got to come up with a way to put the tags on there but still be able to get to the back of them, and I've got some ideas, but I haven't worked that out entirely. I'm looking at using this dark chocolate background. It's got some little dots in it that are black, so it kind of goes with the black in the photos, and then I can put some brighter colors on top of it. The way I did my sketch is I've got a different paper for this section than this section. You could do it that way, or you can do all one paper. I have a tendency to do more solid background and then have smaller groupings of elements and maybe washi tape or paper strips or something, but you could divide it, so I haven't ruled that out. If I do, it may just be more of a tone-on-tone kind of look, like maybe a solid black or something for this background and the brown over here. I don't know. I kind of picked this out before I did the sketch up in PowerPoint, so then I added that section in. So I'm still thinking about that. For materials, I don't buy a lot of Christmas collections. This year I didn't buy one at all. So I'm going by a Christmas collection from a couple of years ago. This is Crepe Papers. I don't remember what it was called. Peppermint collection. And I don't have a lot of it left, but there's a few of the pattern papers. The main reason I picked this out was this gingerbread house die cut. And I have the rest of the die cuts, and there's some cute things in here that I may pull out and do for my embellishment group. And then, as I said, putting my title on top of there. I've got some border stickers that I could use maybe on the tags. So those are the products I'm looking at. I also have some Christmas chipboard. This is several years old and I've never used it. And it has musical notes, see, in some of the letters. And there's a music theme to these photos. So I think that will work really well. I might also die cut some musical notes to put along with this, again, to kind of keep my theme going there, since two of the things in the photos have to do with music. So those are my products, and I'm going to get started by, I think, working out my embellishment group and all, and then I'll know what colors that I have to do my tags, because I may do my tags out of pattern paper, or I may just do them with some paints and inks and do something there. I haven't decided for sure, but if I get the embellishment groups, then I'll know what colors that I have to work with. Pulling out all of these die cuts from this old crepe paper collection. I've had this quite a while. I'm going to use everything that's relevant, and the rest of it probably won't survive this project because I've just had it a long time and it's time for it to move on out. I also have some sticker sheet that goes with this, and there's one possible sticker. I'm putting it on some wax paper so I can move it around and decide if it works out. I have this frame and some doily type of shapes that I'm looking to put behind the gingerbread house. I really like the Holiday Wishes tag. I thought that looked good. And then there's an ornament that sort of goes with some of the things that are going on in the photos. So just sort of laying that out and getting an idea of how much space it takes up and how much, and the colors that it brings to the layout, so I can pick the colors for the rest of the tags and other things that I'm going to do. I don't think I have any other stickers there. Looking at the pattern papers, I'm leaning more towards using the pattern papers as the for the tags. I need something though in the gold for the background of that house. And I start looking around. I've got some buttons I considered using to add a little bit of gold color in there. I even went to looking at cardstock because I have some gold cardstock that matches it perfectly. You'll see in a moment, though, I came up with another actually pretty obvious solution. I just didn't realize it at the time. Now, for my title, it's kind of a long title, and I know I want to use some of these chipboard letters. These are old letters from Cosmo Cricket, and what I like about them is they have musical notes in the letters, and that goes with the theme of a couple of the things from the photos. So I'm going to do the word music out of those. I'm still deciding about whether I want a a break between the pages, and I think that I do, or between the two sides of the pages, and I think that I do. I'm looking at another tone-on-tone paper there, and I didn't like that one very much. Oddly, this gray chevron, though it's really busy, looked really good there, but I think with the other pattern papers on top of it, it would be too busy. So I went back to my standard of cardstock. I'm just going to do a black cardstock over a little over half, and that's where some of those pattern papers are going to look really pretty. Using my sketch, I had drawn it at 7.5 inches, and that's what I cut to start with. Put that down. And while the tags will take up a little bit more room, I think 7.5 inches may be too much because I want some of the other items to lay over, but I don't want them to lay over that much. It looks like I didn't leave them enough room. So I'm going to cut it back another 1/2 inch and make it 7 inches. I typically do these things where they're not exactly half. A lot of times 2/3 and 1/3 look good. It just sort of depends on your layout and what you're trying to do. Okay, and I'm going to tidy up my I keep wanting to call them chipboard, my die cuts, and add some ink around the edges. I started to reach for the vintage photo when I realized that this is more of a chocolate color, so I got out the chocolate ink. I'm not sure you would ever know the difference in just doing the edges, but I still went ahead and used the chocolate ink from Stampin' Up, and I'll do the rest of those. I'm considering some papers down there at the bottom or some stickers. I do have the sticker sheet that went with this collection. I love that little red stripe there. But in the end, I used the tickets because, again, several of these were events, so several things had to do with tickets. I also have this great card that my friend Danny sent me for Christmas and has all this flair on it, and she fixed it so that you could remove the flair. So I'm going to take one of the flair items off, the one that says Christmas 2013, and use that as the date on this page. All right, back to these stickers. I'm going to do some of those tickets down at the bottom, just repeat that one. And I still need something gold, so I've got to find something gold to go with this. I'm going through my washi tapes, looking at a few possibilities there. I've got some reds. This red is a beautiful red, but it's really dark. I have a stars, and those weren't the right shade of yellow. So the washi tapes just didn't work out. But what I found is the back side of one of those papers, I just kept picking it up and I never looked at the back side, was the perfect shade of gold. It's been a while since I used this paper and I'd forgotten about that. So I trimmed it down. I'm going to trim out the design on the back because these little squares with triangles in them, and I'm not going to come all the way down because I want to make sure that I save enough of that paper that I can cut into rectangles for the tags. Just going to trim a little bit of this out by hand and then use it as the strips at the top and the bottom, and that'll bring the gold around to the rest of the layout. Okay, it's time to start putting some things down, making sure I have everything edged with the chocolate ink. And I'm gluing with Tombow adhesive there, and you'll see me, I have a little trouble with my adhesive. It's time to buy a new bottle. The craft store closest to me doesn't carry it, so I have to drive about 20 miles to get a bottle of Tombow adhesive. I need to stock up on it. Of course, a bottle lasts a long time. And I can use some other adhesives for some of these different items as well. I finally got out my little jar that I keep this in so I can keep it turned over. Usually I have the lid on it there, and then it's ready to go if I remember to put it back in its little jar. Now I want to do something special with this ornament. I'm putting it on pop dots, and I'm going to come back to it in a few minutes after I get some other things done here. I'm going to be adding some stickles to it. I've learned though with stickles they need to be the last thing you do before you take a break, because otherwise I get stickles all over creation if I'm not careful. So get the rest of the stuff adhered down, and I'm going to use dimensional adhesive or pop dots for the gingerbread house as well. Using some of the little bitty edges to go in the chimney and the little section that was kind of sticking out there to the right. Okay, now I'm adding the stickles at the very top of this ornament. Those had trouble coming out of the bottle too. They've just been in there a long time. And I'm putting a bow on there. I realized though that I probably need a little bit more adhesive, and I also thought it would be pretty to add to the little dots in the middle of the ornament. There were little polka dots there. I'm using Ranger's Glossy Accents, and to open these bottles a lot of times I just use a pen. Zoom in here so you can see I'm just adding a little bit of glossy accents to some of the dots, and then I can add some to that bow to help keep it in place. So now it's time to work on these tags, and what I did was cut the size tag that I wanted. I believe it's 5.5 inches by 2.5 inches. And I'm going to trim out, I just folded it in half, and I'm going to trim the edges there to make a squared tag with the little diagonals on each end. And then I'm using that as a pattern to cut the rest of the tags. I could cut them on the paper trimmer. The only thing I really need the pattern for is to make sure that I cut those little diagonal ends the same on each one. Cutting out a 1/2 inch circle and gluing that on to the middle where the hole is going to be. And this 1/2 inch circle is out of white cardstock. And once I get that in place and the glue's dry, then I can punch it out with my regular circle punch or regular hole punch. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of ink around the edges. And then I'm just taking, before I take the Crop-It-Out, I want to put a pencil mark there because otherwise I'll never get it centered, and get the tag to look like a tag. Now what I want to do is put the journaling behind each of the tags. I took each tag and I took it to my scoreboard and I scored it about 1 inch over so that I could fold them up and be able to see the journaling underneath. So I'm going to glue down the far left end, the end of the tag where the hole is. One of them though, before I glue it down, I want to put a ribbon in it. I didn't feel like I needed a bow in every one of those or a string in every one of those. I thought that'd be too busy. So I decided to just do one of them, and it ended up being red on red. If I'd thought about it a little bit more, I might have put the gold tag up there or something, but these were the colors that sort of looked good with the photos and in balancing the colors in the layout, so that's how they ended up in that order. And I wanted to continue to use that red trim because I'd used it on my ornament earlier. So it all worked out. Just using my ruler to make sure I keep them straight. In the sketch I have them alternating, kind of alternating, but I decided pretty early on I wasn't going to do that. Well, after doing the prep work to sew this down, I decided that with the glue on here, it didn't really need to be sewn down. And stitching would have added another layer of texture, but I've got a lot of stuff going on here. If I put some stitching on this side, I was going to need to put some stitching on this side. So I just thought I had enough. I also put the buttons away. I didn't really feel like I needed the buttons either. So the way it works out now is I have my journaling tucked in under here, so you can just lift these up and see the journaling and see the rest of those, a few embellishments there that got covered over, just a little edge of one. And I really like this. I'm going to show you a close-up of this with the glossy accents and then the silver there. You can see these. And the title work and my flair that gives it the date, so I didn't have to worry about putting the date on there. And here was our sketch, and I chose to put my tags in a row rather than the staggered way that I had them going. I did use the separate paper back here, but you wouldn't have to. You could use one background paper, or you could use two very different colors. So anyway, that's how the page came out. And thanks for watching today, and I hope you'll check out my blog for the sketch and more about the event that I covered in the page. Thank you.